Hello, everyone. Welcome to another art in conversation as part of National Association of Women Artists. Our today artist and NAWA member is Lully Schwartz, if I pronounce your name correctly, Lolly.
That's right.
Lolly, welcome to our conversation.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it and lovely to talk to you about art.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to see and hear your story.
Okay.
Lolly, as always we do, please tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started as an artist, and what type of artwork you're creating.
Okay. Well, I've been painting now for nearly 50 years. I graduated from the Boston Museum School, and when I realized or started to think I was an artist is a tough one to answer. I know some people consider that when it was, when they were in their childhood, that they became artists. Um, for me, it was maybe a little bit different. So let me explain. My upbringing was actually, I was brought up just north of Boston in a coastal community, and I was one of six children. So I came from a very large family. I was right smack dab in the middle. Uh, my childhood was obviously in the 1960s, and at that time, I remember just, having supplies around me, but they were kids' supplies. They were like sparkle paints, which was the thing back then, or Play-Doh, or crayons, or paper dolls, things like that. And so obviously, I, as a child, really looked at art as play. And I think that that's what little, I mean, children are little creative beings. And so I consider all children to be very artful. And it's only when they get to the age of, let's say, I don't know, 13 or 14 that they start to feel the world coming in and changing their minds about whether they can do something or not. But for me, I was pretty lucky because my parents believed in art and they believed in that art could make a difference. My dad was a criminal defense lawyer, a pretty high profiled one. But the way that he would um, uh, try a case or be in the courtroom is he would do drawings on the back of the file folders of what was happening, and that helped him to think. Anyway, he also, at the same time in the 1950s, he went to the Boston Museum School in the evening just to take classes in painting and etching. At any rate, for some reason, out of all the six kids, he took me under his wing and we went to his friend's studios at on Cape Ann. He took all of us, our whole family, to museums all the time in Boston and in Cambridge. And in particular, he would take me to the neighborhood art supply store, which I loved because it had all these colors on the shelves. And if I was lucky, he'd get me a little sketch pad. So, anyhow, and I would watch him draw constantly. We would draw on the beach, he would draw everywhere. And he'd even draw little stories for me and tell me stories as he was drawing them. So I was lucky in that way. And I took it for granted that, art was just sort of part of my upbringing and my life.
Mhm.
But I found that when I was in elementary school, they realized that I had a reading issue.
Mm.
Today, they'd call it dyslexia. And
Mm.
so, and people who have dyslexia tend to be obviously more visually right side brain people. And so I didn't realize it, but that's kind of what I was. So I continued on my life through to today, where I express myself through my artwork. And
Mhm.
that was kind of a savior for me because I was a horrible student, obviously. And I was very lucky to have had the opportunity to get an early start in it. How's that?
Yeah, that's awesome. So what type of art do you used to do, and what type of art you doing today?
Ah, okay. So, starting out, obviously, I had lots of sketchbooks, and I would in high school, especially, because they gave me piano lessons. I couldn't play piano. They gave me ballet lessons. I liked them, but they stopped them for some reason. And but they never gave me art lessons. So I would go in my bedroom and pick out some books that my parents had and copy drawings of Da Vinci or just old master drawings. And that was sort of the start of it. Then, when I graduated high school, they my mother suggested, well, you really, like fashion. Why don't you consider fashion illustration? Well, this was the 70s, and I did go to school and received a degree in fashion illustration. However, at that time, it was turning to photography. And so I was kind of like a dinosaur. It's like, well, they don't
Mhm.
need fashion illustrators anymore. So I really loved, just visual fine art. So then I started myself in a course at the museum school and eventually was accepted into the program and started out in printmaking and drawing and graphics, and then switched over to painting.
Mhm.
And museum school, I was pretty lucky because they had separate studios for everybody. So it for the painting department. So I had my own little studio and could go to work. And that's sort of my early.
So today you paint.
I
You
do. I'm a painter, and occasionally I think about going back to printmaking. I've done it over the years off and on, but my press broke, so it's not gonna.
so
That was that, you know?
so majority of your work, I mean, you or your artwork identify as a painting or as a painter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have some of your work that you send it to me. Let's at least see some of them and, get to know how you do, what you do, and what
Sure.
inspire you
Okay.
from your work. So it would be good to just use some of your work as example to explain, type of work you
Sure.
doing and creating.
Sure, that sounds good. So this first slide that you're looking at, there's just a quick example. When I was born, I was just a few minutes old, and my father did a series of drawings, and so that's me at like 2 minutes old or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then next to it is a painting that I completed probably, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It's not, I mean, it's as recent as whatever. But that painting is of me at about the age that my parents started to uh, take us to museums, take us out. So I would take my little Chatty Cathy doll, and I decided to paint it. It's the scale of it is uh, 48 by 36 or 36 by however you put it. And it is started out with acrylic paint, and then I switched over to oil. So the underpainting is a little bit thicker acrylic paint because if you paint too thin in acrylic and then put oil over it, it it
Yeah.
can, the molecules come apart and it can cause problems with painting. So, but this particular piece is mainly oil, and I did it pretty quickly, and I had a photo reference, obviously, but once I got the drawing down, I kind of put the photograph away and just started working on it on my own.
Yeah.
Underneath it, there's another painting, which I covered over, which was me standing in front of the daughters of Edmund Boyd, the four girls, because that was a favorite painting, but it just didn't work with it. So I decided to abstract around it because that's how I feel about, the way that I paint is more abstract
Mhm.
realism. So.
Mhm. So, what's the majority of your work subject, or
It's
what's
okay,
inspired?
so it goes between genres. I would say landscape is a big one.
Hmm.
And that's because I love the sense of place and I like to identify with where I've been. And the other is figuration.
Hmm.
And it's either, portraiture of people or, either family members. I don't really do commissions. Um, and the other is that I love to work out of my mind.
Hmm.
So that sounded funny. Um, I like to work out ideas that I have in my mind for pieces like later on we'll look at some mythological pieces.
Yeah.
And in part, I love doing that part of my work because it has an element of narrative to it that, you can't really get with um with let's say landscape unless you're putting something figures into it. So,
Yeah. Okay, so you, in a sense, you like them to be more alive and have life within them. So that's why you use figures because figures somehow has soul and you can, as you
yeah.
said, put a story to it.
Yes, yes. So this slide is just to talk very quickly and briefly about art and work. And when I became an artist, whenever that was, I realized, I have to support myself. And when you just come out of art school, especially, you're up with a whole lot of other artists. I was living in Boston at the time. And so naturally, I had to support myself. The first and foremost, I would work on getting exhibitions and selling my work. And, I mean, that's something that helps support my art, but not completely. And so things like, I worked my way through art school in two or three different museums. I worked everything from guard to
Yeah.
a curatorial data entry person to a cook in the cafeteria. I mean, whatever I could. And the piece that's on the left, which is the Crivelli, is another different kind of work in that Carlo Crivelli is from the MFA. And I'm sorry, okay, is from the MFA. And when you go to art school at museum school, you're able to go up into their studio and copy pieces of artwork. Um, but this particular one, it took me a year to paint it because it was egg tempera. You go in every day, mix your egg and the tempera. You would put a clay bowl, which was like 6 or 7 layers of clay. So you really did the process of the artist at that time. And that was really valuable, but I will say it was work. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
it wasn't very, I mean, I loved the piece. It was interesting to do. This particular one is the MFAs, and I realized I didn't include one. So I don't know if you'll see it, but I will show you 1 second. Um, that's mine.
Okay, let
So,
me stop sharing. I want to see it.
And it's even after working a year, it's incomplete. It is that time consuming to do it.
Yeah.
So, and then lastly, for the past 15 years, I have been teaching art. And that's something I love to do. So the bottom middle picture is that. And it's sort of I'm just really proud to to be called a teacher. To be honest
Yeah.
with you, I know some people say, "Oh, those that teach or whatever." There's a horrible saying, but I really don't believe that. I mean, the best artists in the world were teachers, and
Yeah.
I love it. So, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's you learn and then you pass it along, and but in the process you learn more as
yes.
you teach, you know. So
Yes,
that's the yeah.
absolutely. So, here's just a quickly, I'll go over my studio space. I moved from Boston. I was in, so the little top picture happens to be right here. This is my studio was right there. And that was in the north end of Boston. And that was the first studio that I paid for when I got out of art school. It cost me $60 a month. And like all good um, real estate people, they kicked the artists out and eventually turned it to condos.
Mhm.
But that was sort of where I started to paint.
Mhm.
We moved up here north to the North Shore from Boston, my husband and I, about 85 in 1985, and we moved into a house that's the 17, I want to say 1790s. And it's very, very old. The rooms are not really big. Um, and so the third floor, to my surprise, had someone had put in skylights. So I have a studio on the third floor, which I can paint up to the scale of about 48 by
Okay, that's
48.
good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but anything bigger, I have to come down to the library, which is where I am now. And I paint pieces that are about 60 by 60. I've always thought kind of big is how I see the world, is how I see things. So I tend to paint large or
Large,
relatively
yeah.
large.
But
Yeah.
the problem with large, as you said, like is spacing, you know,
Oh,
how to move
absolutely.
things around. And that's
Yeah.
actually quite challenging when it goes to scale,
It does. It is.
you know.
And the thing is, I'll stretch my own canvases and have to assemble them myself in the rooms. And then, if I exhibit them, I have to rent a van. It is. But
Yeah.
I've accepted that this is how I see the world. And so I do that. So, um, okay, so here we have two pieces that are representative of the areas that I um, uh, like to paint in. I am not a plein air painter, although I have done plein air painting. I prefer to work from the memory of it. I will go into the area, I'll do sketches, I'll make notes about the color composition, and then I come back to my studio and I will work, in my studio on the pieces. So the piece on our left, and this is where dyslexia is going to get me. It's called Field Crossing. Um, is from a place that is a couple miles away. It's a place where I would take my children to picnic, and I have just lovely, fond memories of it. And so it's kind of ingrained in me, and I painted it not too long ago. That's maybe a year or two ago, a couple of years ago. The piece on the right is Porcupine Islands, and that's up in Maine. And I have a connection between here and Maine for a couple of reasons. My family has a family farm up in Maine that I visited from young childhood. That's where we would go. And also, I have one of my sons is a well, he's a professor up in Maine, and I visit him as well. So Porcupine Islands is kind of close to my heart because we would hike up there for years with the children onto Gore Mountain and look down, and that was the view. And
Yeah.
so I worked from that. And I prefer to work mainly from sketches and memory for these because I like to kind of invent my own palette.
Yeah.
It's the way I see it.
Yeah, I
That's how
understand.
I see it.
So you
So
take picture, sketch, and then you come to studio and you
yeah,
double check on what you want.
oftentimes I won't even take a picture. It's just, yeah, it's just either from my sketches. Occasionally, especially for figurative work, I will use photographs.
Yeah.
But yeah, for these
Yeah, I
and
mean,
so
so the idea is for you to be free, what you want to include, what you don't want to include, and
exactly.
then you create your own version somehow.
Exactly. It's all kind of like part of my personal narrative, which, it's okay. Somebody may look at the landscape and not get, what I'm thinking or doing, but hopefully they'll get something
Yeah,
from
everybody
it.
is different, right?
Yes.
People
Yes.
observe things. Yes.
Yes. So now the one that says outside my studio was actually outside my studio, and it was during the pandemic. And, we were locked down, and I just went outside on a beautiful hot day and did some sketching, went back up to the studio, and this is where I could look out the window and see it and painted that. And then the one next to it, and I should say during the pandemic, there's a couple of things that I'd like to say about it. One is um, a lot of artists found it really great that they could paint a lot and they could, they had the freedom. They didn't have people coming in. I wasn't that way. I mean, I was painting a lot. As a matter of fact, the painting that I had where you saw the flowers in the studios, that's all from the um the pandemic era. But I felt very much kind of scared. I mean, I was just scared. And so clearing my mind to get into the studio was not as easy, but I still did it. And I did things like I took some of the flower paintings and I put them up against, I hung them on, I have a very large front yard, and I hung them along the fence for the neighbors to see
Mm.
because I felt that it was so hard not to be.
To cheer up others.
Yes, so it was so hard not to be in museums or be with people. So anyway, and now Happy Trails happens to be climbing up Gorm Mountain, and the last painting, the Porcupine Islands, was done from this mountain, that view.
Okay. Okay,
So
so yes. So that's the
yes,
same area almost, but you
yes,
see the view to the island.
yes,
Right.
yes. Okay, and so more recently, I had a couple of years ago after we were coming out of the pandemic, I decided that I was going to, put on an exhibition, and I'm happy to be represented by the Rockport Art Association and Museum as a jury member. And so I had a solo show.
Mm.
And the first thing I thought of was, well, one of the things that you can do on the coastline when you can't, go out and about, is you can go to the beach. It's easy to social distance there. And my entire life, I have gone to the beach and drawn figures. And that's how I get my figure. I mean, I've done figure drawing classes, but this is basically, and during the pandemic, I think I did an online one too. But this is really how I did it. And one visit that I had to the beach, there was a girl, two girls, a little girl and she was probably 20 something, coming out of the water. And I kind of imagined her to be like it almost looked like I thought she had washed the dust of the pandemic off of her. I thought, oh, and she looked so happy, but I didn't want to include faces because I felt it's sort of more universal if I don't.
Mhm.
Anyhow, and so this came from that, and I called it Rebirth of Venus.
Yes. So to
Yes.
just don't give identity, but it was more general. Which
Yes.
I
And
think
this
that
is,
actually
yeah.
it was everybody, right? To
Oh,
coming out of that
yep.
right
Coming out of
pandemic.
that moment. This piece
Yeah.
is a diptych, and it's I think it's 30 by 50, maybe. Yeah. So
Okay,
it's
so these are two pieces, a part of
yes,
the series.
yes, yes.
Right.
Okay. And thank you for moving Atalanta. And so Atalanta, I really felt so strongly when I was painting her because and I'm going to speak to motherhood and Nawa for just a minute, if it's okay,
Sure.
because one of the things that I think people they don't take it for granted, but sometimes they wonder, well, how are you an artist and a mother? Well, I'm a mother of two. I'm happy to say two sons are raised and they're doing fine. They're wonderful and on with their lives and now have a grandchild. But I really um, loved motherhood. It wasn't always easy and it can be tricky. But I did things like when my first son was born, I would take a roll of paper, about 5 feet of it, tack it to the nursery wall, and when he was sleeping, I would do a large watercolor on it. And I would just do it whenever I could. And so you had to make adjustments. And the other adjustment that I made was I realized when my children were small that I really had to show regionally. So I showed exhibited and sold in my area. And I want to say it was NAWA, and I'm very grateful for NAWA's support to women, that I was able to bring my work more nationally.
Mhm.
And that was so important to me for having had a life, kind of dedicated to art and wanting to spread it around. I mean, I don't particularly like the term woman artist. I prefer to just be known as an artist that's a woman.
Mhm.
But the facts of the matter it still today is something where more responsibilities may be dumped on women or given to women than to men. We all know it's still a different world and there's a lot of improvements that need to be made.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
back to the painting, Atalanta was so important to me because she's such a strong woman. She's independent. Obviously he catches up with her with an apple and it doesn't turn out as well. But I admire the story's ability to show the strength of women.
Mhm.
And so when I was painting this, I started to bring it to a more abstract level. And so that's the other way that I paint. These are kind of two separate, you know, ways
Yeah.
of doing it.
So, to add to to your conversation as a woman and
Yes.
mother,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it is challenging to be a mother
Hmm.
and be an artist because, you have to take care of your child. That's your priority.
Yes.
But as an artist, we always find a way, we always find a way to manage and to, work between these two at the same time, as a woman, as a mother. And yeah, I mean, Nava gave this opportunity. It's about like,
Yeah.
bringing a home. We start this conversation during pandemic because,
Ah,
we have to be connected
yes.
somehow. And so
Yes.
it's okay if we cannot get into personal exhibition, if we cannot get to meet each other in person.
Yeah.
we can do this, right? We can talk. And thanks to technology,
I
so it
know.
gave us this opportunity.
And I was so grateful for that opportunity, for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think, and it is tricky. And I don't want to make it sound like it's really easy to be a mother and an artist, but the one thing that I got out of it, in the end, when I realized it, was as my sons grew up and they talked to me and told me things, was that as an artist, children of artists are extremely proud of their parents. And I never really knew that or realized it. And other kids would be like, "Oh, it's so cool, your mom's an artist," or whatever, But I really believe that having children enriched my life in a way that only made my art better in the end.
Yes.
That's how
True.
I feel anyway.
True.
Okay, so changes. I put changes up because, well, I love David Bowie, but that's another story. Um, I put changes up because this was a bit of a jump or a departure from the work that I had done previously. This called The Three Graces was done from, there was a dancer, couple of dancers that they had at the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Mass, which is a great museum. And I actually worked there too. But they had some dancers with an exhibition of Rodin's work. And it was really a lovely juxtaposition. And I took the dancers, I did photograph them and drew them while I was there. And then came home and I wanted to put together the Three Graces as my own, take on it or version. And what happened was it became more abstracted and more abstracted in the way that you almost can't see the figure on my right hand side, the
Mhm.
third figure. So anyway, yes. But I enjoyed it. It was a huge breakthrough for me, and it's something that you can lose yourself in your work. A lot of artists say there's a time when you go into another space while you're painting, and you
Just
don't.
like a dancer, right? Just a dancer.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
and you
it's
don't
about
realize
movement.
you
It
think.
moves you. So what you did, you mimic the dancer. As they move, they lose themselves
Yes,
within this.
exactly. And that was just a great, wonderful piece to be doing. And that's a diptych as well. So it's 36 by 72. And I find diptychs and triptychs to be nice because they're also very portable.
Yeah.
You can take those to exhibitions and assemble them in whatever way, although
And
sadly,
it somehow it tells a story. You
yes,
from this page to this page, just like you flipping a page.
it
So
does.
that's somehow breaking it at the same time it's connected.
Yes,
You put them
yes.
next to each other. Yes, I understand.
So for the last slide, I wanted to wrap up with something that I'm working on right now, which let's see if you can see it. This piece is my granddaughter,
Okay.
and she plays the cello. She's first cello in her symphony, so she's pretty good too. Anyway, she's a teenager now. She just entered high school. And on the left is a picture of my son who actually went into music and sound recording and filmmaking. And he is also, um, he's now doing computer science work. Sorry, I'm not very good at knowing it. But I did a painting of his brother. The painting of him and his brother are 36 by 48, so they're bigger. Actually, this is him right here.
Yes.
Um, and I decided to do a series of musicians because I have musicians in my family. And I love the idea of leaving something unfinished with the brushwork, because brushwork is very important to me. I think sometimes people kind of, not always, but there are some artists that they don't use their brushwork to their advantage as much. And I don't mean to be critical, but I would say maybe younger artists or something
Mhm.
where you use your brush strokes to move your eye through the painting. And that's why I left this particular one of my son called Astoria because he was playing that piece, I think, at that time. And I felt that I could bring the light in by leaving it slightly unfinished. So
Mhm.
basically, I started it with an underpainting of just the orange and then painted, him into it, did the drawing of it, and then painted him into it. So that was when he was a teenager. He's now 30 something.
Mhm.
And so my granddaughter, who obviously is a teenager now and playing, that her piece is not completely done. I still have a little more to do. And
Mhm.
for people that always wonder, well, what's the mistake? I'll show the mistake right up front. This little, it's a lamp. I don't like it. So
Mhm.
that will be painted out. Yeah, that'll be taken away because I feel like it's taking away from her and the light coming in. Also, I will probably bring in a little bit more blue into the cello. Um, just to kind of unify it. So I'm using the color, the undertone color to unify the painting,
Mhm.
much like people will use an undertone and cover it completely up, but that's not what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
that's
So I mean,
that.
it's like awesome that you start this series with your own family. And
Mhm.
I like the way you mentioned about your brush stroke. It actually give a movement to the work, just like because actually it's about music, that makes it more relevance to the
Yeah,
idea of the brush stroke that you mentioned you use. Since we are at the end, I just thought
yes.
it would be good to show your website.
Oh,
And,
okay.
there are a couple of video in your website. I just want to briefly scan through one of them
Sure.
because it's show actually one of the exhibition you had, obviously,
Absolutely.
and also some of actually the way you work would be good to just say it as our
Sure.
finalized conversation. And I think it has nice music, and you talking over it, but I thought you can explain briefly
Yeah,
about
sure.
this exhibition and your work.
Absolutely. Well, this particular video was done when I was staying in on Rocky Neck for a couple of weeks. And it was important to me because that was an area that I've always visited the artists over the years. And Milton Avery, people that were some of my favorites, Edward Hopper, they all were in that area. So I'm painting actually the area. And I think you might be able to see in where I'm painting that I'm painting from the drawing. But I was very influenced by, so there's the little teapot there happens to be linseed oil. It's a great way to pour it out. Um, I basically use oil paint and linseed oil. I don't really use any kind of resin or mediums on it. It makes it freer for me.
Yeah,
And
really. Yeah, I mean, I found it really fascinating, the way you use your brush stroke as you mentioned, and you capturing the view, like, from
yeah,
surrounding. It's quite interesting to bring everything to life the way you want it, not the way you see it exactly.
exactly. I think that's the real key moment for me is being able to have artwork that is uniquely mine, that I always get concerned if somebody says, "Oh, that is just like so and so's work." I'll be like, "Oh no, it's mine. It's how I see the world," you know? But
Exactly.
it does happen. I mean, I'm not a formulaic painter, and I think most professional artists are not formulaic painters. I will say with the painting that is in the background of that particular video. I'll just say it's on view right now in California at the it's in the background. It's at the Sassy
Yes.
Museum.
Yes, the one now
Uh,
exhibition Nova has.
yes, it's a NAWA exhibition, so I'm really happy it's in California. How's
Yeah.
that? And my palette is always just 10 colors, and I occasionally will throw in what we call a party color, which is, kind of like an opera pink. Holbein makes an opera pink that is not a real strong color when you mix it, but on its own, it's pretty strong and kind of neon-y. And I happen to love that color, so that might enter my palette. But most of my palette, if people are interested, is a combination. It's titanium white, it's cadmium yellow light, it's quinacridone, it's ultramarine blue, there's viridian, there's burnt umber, there's I don't know. I think there might be King's blue, that's a party color too. But anyways, that's sort of the general
Yeah.
general palette. How's that?
That's awesome to combine all those and create a magical work.
Yeah.
Lily, thank you very much. It was really an honor to have you in our conversation and to see all this beautiful work that you have. And I just had, to present your website that is quite easy to navigate and like, simple website.
Yeah.
And for whoever like to see more of your work and explore your story and the type of work you do. I really appreciate your this conversation with us and sharing your work, and I'm looking forward to see more of your work.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate you, and the work that you're doing is so important and incredible. And I thank you very much, and Nawa as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.